So, here we are, and here we are about to go. But I'm afraid, no Toblerone. I didn't have enough money this week to buy any luxuries, but more of that to come. We're at Burfield Airport. Well, airfield, and field being the operative word. Well, at least the bit I landed on. I managed to miss the tarmac, but no harm done. Me and Sylvia, we are still in good condition, which is amazing considering. So, we are 1,300 feet above sea level, which is probably pretty low lying by Swiss standards. It's nice and quiet again, which is good. This low-key, slightly out-of-the-way airfield thing is working well for me so far. Well, third time lucky. No flight ops manager, no difficult questions. So today, plan is to get off the ground, obviously, then head towards Zurich, Lake Zurich, over the Alps, on to Italy, and Bologna, to be specific, which, well, sounds easy when you say it, doesn't it? Head over the Alps, but I haven't encountered mountains yet. Not quite sure what that might do to Sylvia's handling, but hey-ho, we will soon find out. Like I say, learning by doing. So, well, let's do it. Let's learn it. Let's go. We've got fuel. Parking brakes off. Throttle up. Looking clear. I know you like to drift to the left, Sylvia. Come on. That's it. Come on. That's it. There we go. There we go. Stay on line. Stay on line. Stay on line. Let's get up before those trees. I remember those trees from last week. But we are up. Well done, Sylvia. Okay. Another nice evening for it. Left turn. There we go. Nice and easy. Beautiful. Oh yeah, there's that ridge as well. It nearly caught me off guard last week, but we did it. We landed, and now we have taken off. Just the Alps and the lakes and Milan and Bologna to get past. Let's lower your throttle a little bit, take down those revs. There we go. Nice. It was a bit tricky getting into Zurich proper from here last week. I couldn't find anyone on the airfield or nearby to give me a lift. I probably looked a little bit suspicious standing on the side of the road at dusk with just my little rucksack on the back. So I decided to walk it before the sun went down. It was a nice walk actually, through to the train station at Brugg. I think that's how you say it. A beautiful bit of countryside, very neat, well signposted. Some fresh Swiss evening air. Then bang on time trains into the city. I love that Swiss railway clock. It's beautifully simple. It was designed in 1944 by Hans Hilfiger. He was an engineer, had loads of engineering adventures in South America, where he advised the signal corps of the Argentine army, set up telephone exchanges, put a telephone line through the middle of the river basin of the Rio Paraná. Anyway, when he returned to Switzerland, he worked for the railways, and one job was to redesign the clock. So he got rid of the numbers and used simple black lines to mark the hours instead. This was designed to make it easy to read on a busy platform. I only just discovered an amazing fact about them last week. When he designed it to make sure that all the clocks across the network were synchronized, the second hand always runs slightly fast. So it completes a full rotation in 58.5 seconds instead of the 60. And then when it reaches the 12 o'clock position, it waits briefly. During that pause, a master timing switch down there in Zurich sends an electrical pulse to all the other clocks on the station across the network. And then, at the start of the next minute, the minute hand jumps forward, the second hand starts moving again. That little pause, a moment to reflect, to catch your breath. Then life races on again before something else makes you pause. I was too late to get to the bank, to get to the safety deposit box by the time I got into the city. I wasn't too worried, as I knew there was going to be money in the box when I could go the next day. Well, so I thought. Zurich though, whew, well, expensive. I mean, of course it is. If any city is going to be expensive, it's going to be down there. A city of bankers and insurers on the lake. I'd not been there since the great food poisoning debacle of 2008. Dodgy muscle. I spent most of my time on the floor of the bathroom in my hotel, sweating and shivering. Luckily, it was en suite, so I didn't have to monopolise a shared toilet. My head was buzzing. I could hear and feel the electrical current passing through the ceiling lights and wall sockets into my brain. So I had to turn them off, and I sat in the darkness, wrapped in my duvet. Then I could only hear the people next door brushing their teeth. No food poisoning this time, luckily. I'm going to go down there, follow the lake. It is a beautiful evening for it. Yeah, I was at the university that time, 2008. It was celebrating its 175th anniversary. You might have thought it would be older than that. I mean, Zurich, with its cobbled street, it's the kind of place you'd imagine there'd be an ancient seat of learning. But no, it was only less than 200 years old. I'd been invited to the party because of I'd done some work there, some research in the past on renewables. One of my first jobs, and somehow I'd managed to stay on the alumnus list. Alumnus? I should know what the origin of that is. Well, Latin, I imagine. Anyway, after a bit of wandering around the place, this time, not back in 2008, I eventually found somewhere cheap enough to stay, in the old town, Rosengasse. I'd remembered how to ask if there was a single room available, tried it out, but the young guy at the desk, he knew straight away I was English, spoke it very well. He was very friendly, but he spoke very, very quietly, almost in a whisper. So he said something, and I didn't catch it. So I asked him to repeat it. He did, but I still wasn't sure what he'd said, so I just nodded politely. I'd agreed to something, so he said something else. I leaned in again and nodded. Then I heard Frank somewhere, so I handed him my credit card. At least he wouldn't swallow it like the parish cash points stole my other cards last week. He put it in the card reader for me, handed it to me for my PIN. Luke's birthday. I put it in. The reader beeped. PIN incorrect. He looked at me and I looked at him. Maybe I'd forgotten the format. Day, month, 2 digits for the year. Maybe I'd put the month first when I set it up to try and be clever to catch out anyone who had stolen my card. Anyway, I managed to catch myself out because I tried that. Beep. PIN incorrect. We looked at each other again. I didn't want to risk it for a third time. I thought I just need to not think about this for a bit and then it will come back to me. Luckily I had a bundle of Swiss francs that I'd been holding on to, part of my tin box of spare currency from places that I visited. So I counted him out the amount and he handed me the key. He pointed in a direction, said a few more things. Breakfast, I assume, times, possibly rules about the front door. Then he said something a bit longer. Again, I wasn't sure what. He looked me in the eye as if he was waiting for a response. Well, I couldn't ask him to repeat it, so I just smiled again. It can't have been that important. I mean, there's only so many things you can talk about at a hotel front desk, and actions usually speak louder than words. Key means room, pointing means direction, smiling means everything's fine, looking down at a computer screen means we're done here. The room, wood panelling, had an eagle carved in. It seemed appropriate. White stone wash walls, a picture of an old Zurich street scene above the headboard. Not an original. What was good, though, was that it had tea and coffee making facilities, which was a nice surprise and great for the budget. After checking in, I went for a wander, tried to find something to eat. Walked through the old town, cobbles underfoot. City noise softened into a hum somehow by the narrow streets. There's an air of expectancy, as if something's about to happen. I like that. Actors in their dressing rooms waiting to go on, chefs tossing ingredients in a pan, bar staff wiping tables, people getting dressed up, ready to go out. Loads of cafes, voices from all over the world. You're out of place, but somehow you feel at home. Well, I ended up at Zoe House Keller, I think. very Swiss, but easy to just disappear among the tourists. It's built in 1847, an armoury. Legend has it, according to the menu, that the crossbow belonging to Wilhelm Tell was stored there. Is it brave, I wonder, being willing to put your son's life in danger like that? Perhaps it was the confidence of a man who had never imagined what it would mean to lose a child. Anyway, the menu then goes on to tell you that the place was a house, and then since 1926, a restaurant. I was a bit worried when I stepped in. One of those places with long communal tables. I don't like eating with strangers. I mean, why would you want to do that? We're not at school anymore, forced to sit next to David Morris or Ian Long. I'm an adult. I don't want to pay to sit next to a bunch of people I don't know, watching and listening to them eat. Luckily, I managed to get a table designed for two in a dark corner. The menu had a lot of meat, sausage and schnitzels, all made from various different animals, versed by the meter. It's a big bit of cloud. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. I always used to like that joke with the kids whenever we were in Germany. Never wore thin for me. I think it did for them. I dodged the fondue. No fun do with fondue for me. Again, too much sharing and communality for my liking. So I ordered the popular Wiedekerli, which it turned out was a pair of fried sausages, spicy, herby, served with gravy. Maybe they say popular to shift them, but no, they were good. It was comfort food, just what I needed. I had a beer too. I needed that too. I didn't hang around for too long though. It looked like they wanted to keep people moving, get them in and out. High turnover, keep the francs coming. I headed back to the hotel. Walking past a restaurant, I saw a wheel of cheese on fire. Brandy, presumably. Turns out they have multiple approaches to melting cheese in Switzerland. We'll most likely be flying over the home of Parmesan as we head south towards Bologna. Might be able to smell it if I can keep my bearings and get over these rather ominous Alps up ahead. Breakfast was more meat and cheese. Not great for the cholesterol, but I can't do muesli. I mean, any food invented by a doctor can't involve much pleasure, can it? I met the owner of the hotel. She spoke at a much more usual volume than the guy on reception had the night before, who it turned out is her son. She told me that mine was the very room in which Lenin had holed up in the First World War with Nadezhda Krupskaya, his wife. They theorised about capitalism and change, a safe, neutral country from which to plan a revolution. Together they walked in the hills. They ate chocolates. Well, if you're in Switzerland, eating chocolates is an obvious thing, like the Toblerone. I mean, they take it very seriously. Display it like jewellery in shop windows. We could have done with some now, as we fly over these Alps, although quite difficult to unwrap or break a Toblerone and fly an aeroplane. Need to get up a bit higher, I think. 8,000. Feet. Are you okay, Sylvia? Looking good so far. The Alps are where the earth has rucked up like a rug slipping under your foot on a polished floor. Like my grandfather's house next to the church. High wall, the weeping willow, wood pigeons, eider downs from eider ducks. Heavy bedding swaddling a small boy down. The church bell, wood pigeons in the trees, adults downstairs. Now whenever I hear a wood pigeon echoing down the flue of our gas fire, I'm back in that safe, secure place under the eye of God, behind the wall, embraced by the sheet and blankets, a family's love. pretty chilly up here. I'm glad I've got my scarf. Well, it's not actually my scarf. My mum knit it for Sarah. They chose the wool together and the pattern. Grandma probably poured hours into it. It's actually quite elaborate. Not that I know much about knitting. Sarah left it at our house one visit last winter. Now it's mine. Or ours. It's a little bit of cloud around, hiding those peaks, which is a little bit scary, but I think we should be high enough. You only get 12,000 feet. We're heading southeast, which seems to be my bearing of choice at the moment. Heading south, chasing the sunshine or something like that. I can't keep going south forever, of course. I'm gonna have to change direction at some point. So after breakfast, I went straight to the bank, got to the safety deposit box, and it was empty. Completely empty. No money, no gold, no paperwork, nothing. I can't understand it. There wasn't even a note. I mean, I would have expected a note at least. Maybe an apology, an explanation, a clue for contacting them. But no, nothing. No one upstairs in the bank seemed to know anything either. I mean, I suppose that's the point with a security deposit box. They're designed to be a little bit secret, a little bit private. So anyway, I cancelled the lease on it. No point with nothing to store. So that was more bad news following on from last week's no show of Nikki. No sign, an uncommunicated flatmate or lodger, whatever she was. I really do need to try and catch up with Nikki, find out what's happening. Where are they now? Why aren't they where I expect them to be? I mean, they've probably not heard my news. Clearly, I've not heard theirs, of whatever it is. Lenin and Krupskaya were forced to marry as a condition of her being able to join him in Siberia. She married in order to join her lover in the Gulag. They met at a Marxist convention. Stuff of true romance. They were a Soviet power couple. After Lenin died, she became Deputy Commissar for Education. She died 15 years after him, the day after her 70th birthday. There's a rumour that she was poisoned. I mean, there is a track record for that. Maybe something in her birthday cake. I don't know about name days and birthdays in Soviet times, but in all those great Russian novels and Chekhov plays, the characters are always celebrating name days. She lies in the Kremlin War Mausoleum now. If Stalin did have her done away with, I mean, at least he left the dignity of a place in the mausoleum. Though I suppose the truly gracious thing to do would have been to lay her to rest next to her husband in his mausoleum in Red Square. Now, since the fall of communism, Lenin's body has been moved into the Kremlin War Mausoleum, so maybe they are together now. Who knows? I've never seen Lenin. I have seen Mao, though, Mao's body, in Tiananmen Square, just outside the Forbidden City. Yeah, it was freezing cold, I remember. You hear a lot of talk about bicycles in Beijing, but by the time I was there, it was all scooters. Motorbike ones. I mean, not the ones grown men scoot to work in Dalston. 1, 2 or even 3 people per scooter. They all had thick mittens attached to the handlebars. Sheepskin chaps to protect the driver's flesh from icy wind as they drove through the streets. Squat toilets in the back streets, yards from Ferrari garages. Capitalism dancing with communism. Mao was there. Well, they say it was Mao. He looked waxy, though more two swords than taxidermy. Madame Tussauds' mum was from Bern. We flew near there last week. Her mum was a wax modeller for a physician, and she learnt the skill herself as a child. Her first model was Voltaire, as it happens. She claims to have become art tutor to the sister of the King of France. When the revolution came, she was imprisoned, which I suppose makes sense. Presumably she was part of the court by then. But she must have managed to talk her way out of that, because 3 months later she was creating wax models of the revolution's victims. She inherited her mother's employer's collection of models and turned it all into a travelling roadshow. The Napoleonic Wars confined her on the other side of the channel, and she ended up with a permanent place in London. I went once as a kid. It was okay. Mao was better. I mean, weirder. Weren't actually sure whether it was him or not. I remember you could buy an armful of lilies to place at the revolutionaries' feet. I didn't. I mean, it didn't feel like I'd earned that, really. There was a massive queue to get in, and there were loads of lilies by his open casket, but soon became pretty clear that these lilies were recycled, taken out the back door, sold again and again. The Forbidden City was better. It's no longer forbidden, of course. Visiting is actively encouraged. It's vast, much bigger than the old town of Dubrovnik. Thousands of visitors arrive, but so big that they all disperse inside, so it's easy to be alone. Easy to find a quiet corner, a pre-arranged rendezvous spot. My contact on the day I was there was late, but I passed the time by pretending to inspect the seals and so on. I suppose in truth I was inspecting them, I just didn't really know what I was looking at. I wasn't passing judgment, I was passing time. I struggled with Mandarin. I mean, obviously, just saying thank you correctly seemed pretty impossible. On my first night there, I even struggled to get the waitress to understand what I meant by rice. Went on for quite a lot of time, quite a lot of gesturing and sign language. She eventually brought out her mother from behind the counter with the till. Still, no luck with sign language. Eventually, I had to draw it. Even that took a while. It was a bit like playing Pictionary with my dad. Whatever I drew, however close to the thing it was, you could never see it. When I told my fixer about my language problems, he said that I was tripping up on inflections in pronunciation, sounds that I couldn't even hear. There was an energy in the air though, Beijing. Something like in Berlin after the wall came down. You could buy deep fried tarantulas on sticks in the street market. Insect kebabs. But locals don't eat them, said my fixer. Why should you? Joke, perhaps, a trick for gullible tourists. I mean, not even gullible, I suppose, just thrill-seeking. Something to tell their friends back home that they did. Bit like Luke eating deep-fried Mars bar in Edinburgh. His uncle prepared the way. Went into the chippy, had a chat. He was his fixer, I suppose. They let Luke cook it, and then he ate it. I declined to partake. He said it was good, but he didn't finish it. He discreetly dropped the remainder in a bin as we walked off through the meadows. I talked with the chippy guy. I asked him about the invention process, the R&D for the deep-fried Mars bar. Kind of thing that interests me. He said that in quiet times they'd batter and fry anything that they could get their hands on. Makes me think of baked Alaska. Ice cream in an oven. My uncle, the pastry chef, not the arms dealer uncle, he made us some once. We were all amazed. How could something ice cold come out of a boiling hot oven and not be melted? He whispered a spell at the oven door, pretended it was magic. I never forgot it. I made one for our kids once. Did the whole magic trick thing like my uncle had done, but Sarah wasn't having any of it. Turns out they'd had a lesson on heat conduction and insulation at school the previous week, and the teacher had done what my uncle did, pretended it was magic. She didn't tell us about the lesson at the time. She never talked about school that much, or her thoughts. She offered up only the essentials. A lot of her was inaccessible to us, until occasionally she would burst into enthusiastic life about something, like explaining how baked Alaska works. Then she was animated, articulate, excited. I don't think she was sad as a child, just private. Nothing wrong with that. Lenin's flat in Zurich was round the corner from the Dadaists, the art revolutionaries who came before the surrealists. Emmy Hennings, a poet and singer, started a cabaret night with her husband Hugo Ball. Ball was dressed in cardboard sculpture costumes, shouting sound poems at the audience. Nonsense noise, a response to the madness of the war, I suppose. They were joined by jokers from around the world, all appalled by the violence. They called their night the Cabaret Voltaire. They pulled off stunts and tricks, subverting city life. I suppose if Zurich operated like a Swiss railway watch, they attempted to jam its mechanism, make that little pause every minute jolt backwards and forwards. It was performance art before it was a thing. Poetry from the sound of language. Gaji, Beri, Bimba, Glandridi, Laula, Loni, Kadri, Gajamagrama, Berida, Bimbala, Glandri, Galassa, Laule, Ptolemy, Gaji, Beri, Bin, Blassa, Galassa, Laula, Loni, Cadorso, Sassalabim, Gajama, Tuffamim, Zamzala, Bin, Ban, Gigla, Wo, Willami, Bin, Beri, Ban, O, Catalominai, Rhina, Zossa, Rossala, Hopsaman, Laule, Tamilameli, Hu, Gajama, Rhina, Rossa, Lossala, Hopsaman, Bluka, Terralula, Blalalu. Bunch of mates messing around. Grease on auditorium steps and tales of loaded guns on the conductor's podium. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Probably just a little bit of showmanship. But then, with the surrealists, there was talk of riots at concerts, so maybe conducting was a high-risk business in those days, especially if you were a composer too. So maybe it was good to have a little bit of protection. They exported Dada, or there was a Dada contagion. It spread. Paris with another centre, of course. Felt like I was in a Dada world there last week, locked out of my own money, going round in circles, watching a flat for a friend to return to who I hadn't spoken to for months and who didn't know I was coming. Eric Satie was a musical Dadaist, bit older than the rest, the Dada of Dada, I suppose. I find a lot of his music too sad to listen to these days. Somehow it gives me too much space to think. They had a manifesto, the Dadaists, written by Tristan Tzara. He was born in Romania. I spent many hours in Bucharest once trying to buy Lego to take home for Luke. Walked the streets all afternoon between meetings with government officials and energy company bosses. I got into the habit of always bringing something back for the kids, so I had to keep it up. I didn't want to disappoint. I wanted to prove that I'd been thinking about them, I suppose. Sarah was quite easy then. She liked loads of stuff, but Luke, as he got older, it was more difficult. Lego was usually a winner though. Then I started to get him key rings for different football teams. Mainz, St. Pauli, Boca Juniors. He kept them in a little Tupperware box under his bed. Yeah, the Dadaists had a manifesto, even though they were against manifestos in principle. I mean, actually, they were against principles in principle. I am neither for nor against, and I do not explain, because I hate common sense, so said Zara. I'm increasingly beginning to think that that's not a bad stance to take. Well, maybe not the hate common sense bit, but the being able to sit with ambiguity, the not always knowing the answer. The Dadaists didn't like religion much, nor did Voltaire. He was a free speech proponent. He criticised Christianity and royalty, slavery. He was a satirist, using wit as a weapon. He didn't discover the vault. That's named after someone else entirely, Alessandro Volta, an Italian chemist and physicist. That was from before the days when we attempted to separate those two disciplines. He was born and died in Como, which we are going to be flying over pretty soon, I think. In fact, it should be coming up ahead of us. That is Lake Como down there. This map is not ideal. Where is it? Yeah, must be. Must be. We're going to say it is. Lake Como. Comb over. A Dada hairstyle. Bobby Charlton had a comb over and a World Cup medal, World Cup winners medal, all by the time he was just 29. He was a protégé in every way. Sporting triumph and male pattern baldness. I suppose it follows a pattern. I've still got mine for the moment. By rights it should have dropped out. Maybe it still could. Hair today, gone tomorrow. Lenin is another classic case. Baldness. No comb over, no need. I mean, baldness was part of his image, reproduced endlessly as part of the cult of personality. They don't mean personality as in, ooh, Lenin, he had a great personality. They mean personality as in the ideals and aspirations of communism were embodied in the personality of Lenin. Still, if one was considering a list of iconic bald men, Lenin would, well, yeah, he's going to rate pretty highly on the list, isn't he? I mean, aside from him as a kid, I can only recall one photograph of him with any hair at all. Although I suppose there aren't so many photographs taken back in Tsarist Russia. Lenin was a pseudonym. I had to have a few pseudonyms in the past. it was easier for a while. Today, Matthew, I will be somebody, not me. Lenin and co. didn't think much of religion either. The opium of the people, propping up inequality. I kind of agree with them, but I do like churches though. Switzerland, very good for churches. I always like to visit. They're comforting, you sort of know the rules. A bit like visiting an art gallery. And in Zurich, the bells echo around those narrow streets and over the river. I called into the Frauenmünster. It's the one with the tall green spire. More modest on the outside than the Grossmünster on the other side of the river. It's quite simple and cool inside too. Smells like an old church should. It's the light they care about in there. Fills the place. Like the sky has come inside. The stained glass windows are by Chagall. They glow, deep blues, reds, greens, spilling onto the stone floor in blurred patches of colour, like the whole place is moving while the world stands still. Chagall was born in what is now Belarus. He was Jewish, but he used imagery from Christianity in his art too. For me, he said, a stained glass window is a transparent partition between my heart and the heart of the world. So there's Como, down there. We are doing all right. Somewhere over there, right in the distance, is Mont Blanc, the highest mountain in the Alps. The Mont Blanc pen, of course, named after Mont Blanc, favourite of politicians and the rich and famous. Great for signing treaties and bills, often given as gifts to visiting dignitaries. In 1963, JFK lent his Mont Blanc pen to the German Chancellor Konrad Adenauer at the signing of the Golden Book in Cologne. Apparently Adenauer didn't have a pen, or perhaps it was the other way around and Adenauer lent his to JFK. Prince Charles, Lady Diana used one to sign their wedding certificate. You could use something a little bit more permanent, like a Sharpie or a biro, invented by Laszlo in the 1930s. He was from Budapest before he had to flee Europe. Good thing about the biro is it works. Yeah, can't write and fly at the same time. Anyway, good thing is it works at high altitude, so excellent for pilots, but I'm not going to try that out, I don't think. Mont Blanc was first climbed in 1786 by Jacques Balmat and Dr. Michel Gabriel Paccard. Paccard carried barometers and scientific instruments to study the effects of altitude. Bit like William Glacier and Henry Coxell. They did a similar thing 100 years later. Except they were in a balloon and in Wolverhampton, which very much isn't the Alps. They were in a large coal gas powered balloon going up to conduct atmospheric research. Coxall was a balloonist, Glacier the scientist. Their goal was to measure the temperature, humidity and other conditions at high altitude. During the flight they went far higher than any previous balloon ascent, maybe as high as 35,000 feet. That's as high as a jumbo goes. At those heights the air is extremely thin and cold. Glacier lost consciousness and Coxall's hands became so numb from the cold he couldn't release the gas valve, so they kept climbing and climbing. Coxall had to climb the rigging and pulled the valve cord with his teeth. They eventually landed safely somewhere in South Shropshire, amidst the blue remembered hills, which is a bit more like the Alps than Wolverhampton. They call Church Stretton Little Switzerland, but it's its own place. Me and Izzy walked those hills a lot. A land of lost content. I was working all across Italy in the early 90s, working on hydroelectrics. Got to see nearly all the country. I was right on the edge of my newly qualified confidence. I did get to see the whole country though. My driver Valerio took me to visit his mother in a small village near Como. She cooked us risotto. Valerio told me she insisted that it had to be stirred constantly and always in the same direction. This avoided breaking the grains apparently, with probably some superstition thrown in. I've always done the same since. Didn't get to cook it much though. Kids didn't like it. I don't know if direction matters. I mean, it matters to us, of course. We're on a path of our own making. South, southeast. Como always attracted visitors, still does. Nietzsche stayed down there. There are no facts, only interpretations, he said. I kind of like that. People are too sure of themselves these days. They're not afraid to tell you and thousands of others. No room for nuance or uncertainty or interpretation. I'm getting to appreciate uncertainty more. A little bit of it can make you think about something in a new way. Maybe be more prepared for the unexpected. I'm learning the value of that. Although I'm not sure you can be prepared for the unexpected, can you? Just see it as a problem to be overcome. Be ready for it, even if you're not prepared. There's Milan down there. Somewhere on the left is Monza motor racing circuit, home to the Italian Grand Prix. Monza. Milan is the second city, the Birmingham of Italy. Unlike Birmingham, it's a fashion capital. Birmingham's maybe concerned more with function than presentation. Giorgio Armani was born not far away, in Piacenza. We'll probably fly over it later. He started studying medicine down there, the University of Milan, then gave it up for fashion. It's a good job not all doctors do that. Otherwise, where would we be? A lot do seem to give up to be stand-up comedians, though. Doctor, doctor. Maybe laughter is the best medicine. Milan University isn't that old either. 1924. Mussolini on the rise. I bought an Armani suit once in a backstreet tailor's in Hong Kong, 1995, I think. The label said Armani, but I suspect it wasn't. I wouldn't have known anyway. I'd only ever had one cheap suit before from BHS. Probably lasted a lot longer than my Armani one, which I managed to rip beyond repair when I was trying to escape the advances of an expat newsreader at a book launch in Singapore that I had somehow managed to get myself invited to. Amazing to think that the Last Supper is down there somewhere in the city. He's a bit of a hero of mine, DaVinci. Interested in everything. Art, engineering, nature. A Renaissance man. Well, literally, obviously. A painter, engineer, scientist, thinker, sculptor, architect. He improved the canals in Milan. He understood the power of water. What a brain he must have had. Not boxed in or constrained, but open. He imagined the future, when we were only just accepting that the Earth went around the sun. He designed a forerunner to the helicopter, the aerial screw. I don't think it would have ever got off the ground. His design had a crew of people on a wooden platform running around a central pole while holding handles. That turned the sail. If it turned quickly enough, he thought, it would lift into the air. I'm not sure if he factored in the dizziness of the runners. He invented the parachute too. Sort of. I should probably have one of those. A lifesaver for when it all goes wrong. Something to turn impact into drift. To turn speed into time. The Last Supper was a bit of an experiment. A break in... Whoa, steady. A break in convention. He painted directly onto the wall of the convent of Santa Maria della Grazia. But instead of traditional fresco painting, he used oil on dry plaster, more like normal painting. This meant he could work more slowly, in more detail, get more intensity. Did mean, though, that it frequently has to be restored because it flakes a lot. He was also trying something new in how he depicted it. He turned that biblical scene into a moment of human emotion, a moment of real-time drama. The disciples aren't symbols, they're real people, they're leaning in, they're whispering. You can see in the faces all the different reactions to Jesus' words, that moment when they receive terrible news. Disbelief, anger, fear, confusion, despair. I'm following the A1 and the Milano-Bologna train line. It's going where we're going. Like a plane, a train likes straight lines. The original was built in the 1850s, 60s. The train stitching together a country that was still in the process of becoming Italy. The high-speed line was built in the 90s, a symbol of modernity. Getting from Milan to Bologna in about an hour. That is the River Po down there. Flatlands now, after crossing the Alps. Thanks, Mark. We made it. The Po is Italy's longest river. Its source is in the mountains in the northwest. Then it flows east across northern Italy into the Adriatic Sea near Venice. A watery highway from west to east. The water you touch in a river is the last of that which has passed, and the first of that which is yet to come. That's DaVinci too. The Po has shaped this part of the country. It's wandered around over the centuries. Water does that. It'll always find a way unless we concrete it in. Floods have altered channels, created wetlands, reshaped the places people live. No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and he is not the same man. That was Herodotus. It's good farming land down there, the Po Valley. River nourishing the land to grow the food to nourish the people. They grow wheat, maize, tomatoes, fruit, and the rice for risotto. It's perfect for rice growing round here. Fertile alluvial soil, water from the Po. Mild winters, hot, humid summers. Rice paddies are irrigated by a network of canals and the river itself. It's Piacenza down there. In 1802, Napoleon's army made it part of the French Empire. Then local young men were recruited into his multinational army. French, German, Polish. Found themselves away from their home here, fighting in Spain, Germany, Russia. Stole the city's youth and lots of its artwork. Ended up in French galleries. That down there is the Piacenza power station. I did some work there once. I was working for a company just been set up to develop and test power generation systems. That Piacenza station is gas-fired thermal plant. They use water from the river to cool it. They're quite clever, those kinds of plant. They've got a gas turbine and a steam turbine, and that's powered by steam produced from the waste heat of the gas turbines. Then surplus heat created by the steam turbine is tapped off and fed into Piacenza's district heating network. hot water gets heated at the power station, then is pumped through a network of supply pipes. Buildings extract heat using heat exchangers, transferring its energy to the building's own heating system and hot water pipes. Then the cooler water returns to the plant, constantly circulated. So that makes it about 80% efficient. A little bit of engineering magic that a person in an apartment turning on their tap or their radiator valve would never think about. The turbines, heat exchanger, pumps, control systems, buried pipes that make all that possible. In the Second World War, skies around here were full of planes defending or attacking bridges, roads, railway lines. Cremona, not far from Piacenza, just out to the left, is a town of luthiers, makers of stringed instruments like violins, violas, cellos, from the French word luth, meaning lute. Antonio Stradivari plied his trade there 300 years ago. His instruments are famous for their craftsmanship and their amazing tone. Scientists have studied them for decades, but there's no single agreed explanation why they sound the way they do. Could be the wood, could be the varnish, could be the proportions. The player probably has something to do with it. There are about 600 of his violins left in the world. Some of them are worth millions. Most of them are owned by foundations and they're just lent to concert musicians. The player becomes a custodian, temporarily entrusted with a piece of musical history. I used to play the violin. I spent years trying to get good at it, but it never came naturally. I couldn't seem to figure it out, and I couldn't see much progress or improvement. Maybe I didn't have the patience or the desire or just the skill. I gave it up as soon as I left home. I tried to tell Sarah and Luke to keep going with theirs, but they'd regret it if they didn't. Luke did carry on with the guitar, but Sarah threw her recorder across the room and broke it and her mirror, and that was that. So, on our way to Bologna, like us, Gio Chavez flew over the Alps from Switzerland in what was to become Italy. He wasn't going as far as Bologna. It was the 23rd of September 1910, brig to Domodossola, just west of my route today. Not much more than 30 kilometres he made, but it was the altitude that made it so dangerous in 1910 with his fragile plane. Not got the strength of my Sylvia. Officially he was Peruvian, but he grew up in Paris. He was the first to fly over the Alps, but his plane broke apart on landing. He was badly injured and died a few days later. Flying was wildly dangerous in those days. Maybe people put a different value on their lives, or maybe it was just that they were young or had explorer's mentality. I've taken risks in my time, I know, but I think I've calculated them. Maybe Gio did. Maybe he miscalculated. Maybe he let the fame and the thrill and the adulation and the riches that a safe landing would have brought, maybe he let all that override the reality of the numbers of his calculations and the quality of his plane. The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those that cannot fly. That was Nietzsche too. Okay, this is a little bit tricky. How are we doing? We're okay. Just get underneath this cloud if I can. There we go. There we go. They make Parmigiano Reggiano, the king of cheeses in the region round here, Parma and nearby provinces. Has to be made in a particular way, very strict regulations. Has to be aged for a minimum of 12 months, and you have to watch out for the cheese police. They come round and knock on the wheels of cheese to check quality and authenticity. I always used to think it smelled of vomit when I was younger, particularly the pre-grated stuff. Apparently that's to do with the butyric acid which is produced during the aging process. Prosciutto di Parma too, of course, that can only come from around here and can only be made from the hind legs of pigs born in Italy. Don't know what they do with the rest of the pig. They're fed a special diet, a bit like the Ortolan bunting. Corn, barley, wheat and the whey from the Parmigiano production. And like the cheese, it has to age. I remember having melon and Parma ham as a starter when I was a kid. One of the few times we ever went to a restaurant. Must have been for my brother's 18th something. Wasn't much else to celebrate then. Fruit and meat at the same time. I couldn't believe it. And meat that hadn't even been cooked. And I don't think I'd even seen a melon before. It was a bit too exotic for my mum and dad. Dad stuck to tomato soup and mum probably had a glass of pineapple juice in the days when a glass of fruit juice counted as a starter. It's also pasta making country. They specialise in fresh pasta here. Pasta from the Latin, obviously, meaning dough or pastry. Tagliatelle, tortellini, tortelloni, lasagna, passatelli, gramigna, annolini, capelletti, pappardelle. Verdi was born near here, Parma. They still stage his work in the Opera House, which is down here somewhere. Yeah, must be one of those buildings down there. That's it, I think. He was another Italian high achiever. He was church organist by the time he was 8, when I was scraping away on the violin, barely able to get a note out of it. My violin wasn't a Stradivarius one. It's probably made in China. Verdi's children died. First in August 1838. Verdi and his wife Margherita's daughter Virginia died. She was just over a year old. Then, only a few months later, their son Icilio also died. October 1839. He was just 17 months. Then, 6 months after that, Margherita, Verdi's wife, died. 26 years old. All his family gone in just a few months. No wonder he could write a tragedy. Characters trying to come to terms with terrible loss, trying to carry on with their lives after losing those close to them. He couldn't save his children from what was in store for them. Fate or God or a curse. La maledizione. Couldn't hold them tightly enough. Never knew what they would become. Could only imagine what they would look like older. I wonder if he was able to still say their names, shape the words in his mouth. Let the day perish wherein I was born, and the night in which it was said, there is a man-child conceived. Let that day be darkness. Let not God regard it from above, neither let the light shine upon it. Let darkness and the shadow of death stain it. Let a cloud dwell upon it. Let the blackness of the day terrify it. As for that night, let darkness seize upon it. Let it not be joined unto the days of the year. Let it not come into the number of the months. Let that night be solitary. Let no joyful voice come therein. Cursed be it by those whose magic binds even the monster of the deep. Let the stars of the twilight thereof be dark. Let it look for light, but have none. Neither let it see the dawning of the day. Curse the day, because it shut not up the doors of my mother's womb, nor hid sorrow from mine eyes. Why was I born? Why did I not give up the ghost when I came out of her belly? If I had, I would be at peace now, at rest with kings and counsellors of the earth who built desolate places for themselves, with princes who had gold and filled their houses with silver, where the wicked cease from troubling and the weary be at rest, where the prisoners rest together. They hear not the voice of the oppressor. The small and the great are there. There the servant is free from his master. Why should the tortured be born to see the light of day? Why is life given unto the bitter in soul, those who long for death but for whom it comes not, that dig for it more than for hidden treasure, who rejoice exceedingly and are glad when they can find the grave? Why is light given to a man whose way is hid and whom God hath hedged in? For my sighing cometh before I eat, and my roarings are poured out like the waters. For the thing which I greatly feared is come upon me. That which I was afraid of is come unto me. I was not in safety, neither had I rest, neither was I quiet, yet trouble came. Treat children well down there in Reggio Emilia. Teachers don't have all the answers, they're co-learners with the children. Kids are allowed to make mistakes. Uncertainty, not knowing, getting things wrong. That's all part of learning and discovery. The child is made of 100. The child has 100 languages, 100 hands, 100 thoughts, 100 ways of thinking, of playing, of speaking. 100. Always 100 ways of listening, of marvelling, of loving. 100 joys for singing and understanding. 100 worlds to discover. 100 worlds to invent. 100 worlds to dream. The child has 100 languages. And we lose all that somewhere along the way. Reggio Emilia, also the birthplace of the Italian flag, the green, red and white tricolore, like caprese, basil, tomatoes and mozzarella. On my Italian job, my job, not the film, the Italian job, we spent a few days in a small village, Reggie, just outside Ancona on the east. The waiter at the only trattoria in village, he gave us caprese as a starter, whether you wanted it or not. Tutti caprese. I always wanted it anyway. Sitting outside, blue sky evenings, green shuttered windows, glowing roof tiles, no traffic, just voices and glasses and cutlery and birds and tutti caprese. In the film The Italian Job, they helped to make minis cool, weaving through Turin streets, stairs, rooftops, traffic full of stolen gold. The first mini came off the line at Longbridge in Birmingham in 1959. It was designed by Alec Isigonis. He was born of Greek family, but came to Britain to study engineering, ended up working for the British Motor Corporation. He was asked by the boss, Leonard Lord, to produce a small car, something easy to repair, cheap to run, economical, that would use less petrol, spurred on by fuel shortages after the Suez crisis. Isigonis liked to keep things simple. Camel is a horse designed by committee, he said. Too many cooks and all that. Isigonis' design was pretty radical for the time. The transverse engine meant that despite the car being small on the outside, it was deceptively roomy on the inside, TARDIS-like. So even though it looked tiny, you could get 2 adults and 2 kids in, just. The Mini became the best-selling British car in history. I got to have a look around Longbridge once. It was amazing. Beautiful, almost like watching a dance. All the parts coming onto the line at the right time, in the right place. Gearbox, clutch, fuel tank, radiator, bumpers, headlights, steering wheel, vents, radio, speakers, windows, door seals, headlinings, seat belts, seats, gear stick, handbrake, sun visors, mirrors, wheels, oil. Right part for the right model at exactly the right time. Everything constantly on the move. Everything timed so that no station would fall behind. "You're ruled by the track," the workers used to say. All that skill is gone. It's now a supermarket, Marks and Spencer's and new build housing estates. They still build cars down there though, in Modena. It's an engineering city. Somewhere down there they are making Ferraris. Ferrari's more than just a car. Shows that engineering can be art. I mean, not many of us could afford one, but we all know what they look like. Recognise the badge. When they race in Formula One, they represent the country. And a victory is a win for the whole of Italy for engineering skill, speed, beauty, pride in design and imagination. They also make Lamborghinis and Maseratis down there. Motor Valley. Dreams taken from drawing board to workshop to assembly to the road. I had a Ferrari poster on my wall as a kid. I loved looking at pictures in magazines that our neighbour, who was a mechanic, would pass on to me. They seemed so exotic, always photographed on sun-drenched Italian streets or winding their way down mountain hairpins. All seemed a long way from grey Britain, where our cars were mainly seen to be painted brown or light beige. I just about remember watching Niki Lauda and James Hunt battle it out when I was a kid. Lauda was driving for Ferrari. There was always lots of talk about how different the two of them were. Lauda was seen as calculated, disciplined, focused. Hunt was a playboy, charismatic, impulsive, rebellious. Lauda was private and reserved. Hunt was more outgoing, a risk taker, both on and off the track. Lauda's car burst into flames at the German Grand Prix in 1976. He suffered terrible burns and his lungs were badly damaged. No one thought he would race again, but 6 weeks later he was back in Ferrari in the Italian Grand Prix in Monza. He was still bandaged up. Formula One was proper drama then, courage and glory and a lot of probably very stupid risk-taking. Niki Lauda died at the age of 70 in hospital in Zurich. There's probably fields of solar panels down there. Not so good for wind here, but very good for sunshine. I'm going to follow the Via Emilia. There it is, nice straight road, 2,000 years old, all the way into Bologna. I think it's been resurfaced at a number of points during its history. Now, unlike Zurich, Bologna really does have an ancient university. They say it's the oldest university in continuous operation in the world. It's had students since 1088, everyone from Copernicus to Pasolini. I'm going to spend a little bit of time in Bologna. There are a few people there that I've worked with in the past. Silvio, Bella. I'm going to check out some of our old haunts. I'm hoping they're still around and won't mind helping me out. We've lost touch a bit, as you do. You have these intense experiences with people and you think you're always going to be close, but then you go your separate ways. Life happens and you stop communicating as regularly. But I'm sure they'd be happy to help me out. I know I would, if it was the other way around. I'm going to go to Cafe Maxim first. You can watch the world go by from there. Spot people, everyone passes by there at some point, so if they're still around, I should spot them. Bologna Airport is just over there in the distance on the left, but I'm going to head for Guli Emizandami, just out to the east. Again, no paperwork, no call sign, but not too far from the city. So, according to my not very good map, shouldn't be too far away. Somewhere over there to the left. I'm going to give myself a bit of a run up though. He's round to the left. Flaps. Okay, where are you? That's a road. Swing it round. What is that? Not it, I don't think. Factories. I remember when I was a little kid, a glider landed in the field behind our house. It's the most excitement we'd seen for months. All the kids from the village came running to have a look. The pilot had to come into our house to ask to use the telephone so he could phone his support vehicle to tell him he'd got his landing very, very wrong. I think he's probably supposed to land up the road in Little Switzerland, Church Stretton on the Longmynd. I'm going to try not to crash land in a farmer's field. Okay, where are we? Is that it? Nope, that is a road. That is another field. Okay, it's got to be around here somewhere. More pylons. I always seem to put pylons very close to airports. Ah, there we are, there we are. All good. No trees this time. Okay, Sylvia. Let's do it, shall we? Oh, there's a nice patch of water there. Let's not go into that. I know you always like to steer left. Let's keep your nose up, Sylvia. Nose up, nose up. Come on, nearly there, nearly there, nearly there. Nearly there. Come on. There we go. Come on. Come on. Come on. Oof. Oh, I missed the tarmac again. Sorry, Sylvia. I mean, I think these airfields, they've got grass for that very reason, haven't they? I mean, there's the tarmac, so we're not bad. We're not bad. There we go. I don't know why they make them quite so narrow. Not sure that was better or worse than last week, but we are down. Luckily, no one around to witness it. Let's stop it there, shall we, Sylvia? There we go. Parking brake on, and we are down. Thanks for joining us again, everyone, from our flight from Zurich to Bologna. Hope you enjoyed it. Some pretty spectacular scenery on the way, and didn't crash into the Alps, which was number one objective, so pleased with that. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat. If you don't have any questions, that is fine as well. We'll be flying again next Monday, same time, leaving Bologna. We'll discover whether Reggie managed to catch up with those old friends, Silvio and Bella, whether he manages to get any cash together. I didn't have time on that flight to have my coffee, so if you don't mind, I might have it now. Cheers. Thank you very much for tuning in, and really hope to see you next week. You can catch up with the previous flights on our YouTube channel, so if you want to binge watch Slightly Nervous Flyer flying across Europe, that's the place to do it. Otherwise, we'll see you same time, same place next week. Thank you very much.